everyone, it's Shari Carroll here for SimonsStamp.com with another Die-Cember card idea using your dies in an unexpected way. For my card, I've started off with a really beautiful penny black die, and it's a flourish die, and I've cut several pieces of the olive cardstock from Simon Says Stamp. I've cut 6 die cut pieces out, and eventually I'll be cutting these up to start my wreath. I've also used this little branch, and I've cut out about 4 pieces from the khaki cardstock, also from Simon Says Stamp. I want to shade some of my little branches, so I'm using gathered twigs and my ink applicator tool. And I learned this technique from Tim, where you don't release your die cuts from the background paper. You go ahead and keep everything all together, and just by swirling your color around, you grab the edges of your die cuts. So I don't want to color the entire piece, I just want to add a little bit of variation of color within the little branches. The next thing I want to do is to use my scissors and start cutting apart my flourish. I want to separate the pieces so I'll have something to build the base of my wreath with. I'll do the same to my little branches, and I'll just cut portions of these out so that I can start building up a nice little whimsical, almost like a grapevine type wreath. I have some regular white cardstock here, and I also have a die cut circle, and I'm just going to use a pencil line and trace around my circle, and this will just give me a great idea of where to spatially start with my wreath. I will go inside and outside of this trace circle, and eventually I'll be erasing my pencil mark. I'm using my Zig two-way glue pen, and I'll start placing one of my olive pieces down, and I'll just kind of place it, decide where I want to put it, and I'll go ahead and add a couple dots of that glue to the back, and then I can go ahead and flip that over and start pressing my pieces down to make my wreath. So I'll go around in the circle and keep kind of moving things around, deciding what's the best direction to have these green pieces, and once I've decided which way to go with them, I'll go ahead and add more glue and place them around until I have an entire circle out of the olive cardstock. Once I have the base of my wreath down, I can go ahead and go back in with my eraser and start erasing my pencil line. And really, once I add my twigs, I won't be able to see these pencil marks anyway. But if you notice, I've left some of those green pieces to where that little tiny skinny piece will stick up, so I'll be able to use those as more dimension later when I start building the rest of the wreath. Again, I'm using my two-way glue pen, and I'll add a few dots to the back of the twigs, and then I can go ahead and flip these over and start placing them onto the wreath. So I've added a few more, and I'll go ahead and show you how this is starting to look, and it's really whimsical. I really like how this is turning out, and I'll just keep continuing adding branches until I fill it in. I don't want it to be too full, but I'll go ahead and tuck some in between the layers of the olive and the other branches, or I may trim them down if they seem too big. At this point, my wreath is getting really filled in, and I'm going to go ahead and add in a few more of the other piece of the olive flourish. There's some larger pieces and smaller pieces, so now I might fluff this up a little bit so that it looks a little more dimensional, and I'll go ahead and show you how this is starting to look. For my greeting, I'm using another penny black stamp set, and I'll be using the piece for this one. I just want a little small message. I've also cut a strip of Neenah white cardstock, and I'm using the Simon Says Stamp khaki ink. So I'll go ahead and ink up my stamp, and I'll be stamping this to the right side of my Neenah cardstock. And I'll go ahead and make sure I line it up really nicely. And I cut this cardstock to about 1/2 inch, and it fits the message really nicely. And so once I have that stamped, I'm going to go ahead and trim off the end into a banner cut. So I'll just use my scissors, and I'm going to trim the piece off a little bit first, and then I'll cut into the center and then cut from each end into the center for my banner cut. I've created a bow using the Tim Holtz paper string, and I've done a double bow by doing a figure 8 twice, and then I've tied it with an additional piece of string, and I'm using some glossy accents, and I'm just going to go ahead and press this onto my wreath and allow that to dry a little bit. I usually like to fluff my bow up while I'm waiting for it to dry. One of my favorite things to use are the Hero Arts accent pearls, and here I'm using all three sizes. I have the large, medium, and small, and you clip in between each one, and I'll just go ahead and alternate the sizes all around the wreath. You could add brighter colors if you wish, but I always tend to go for the really neutral colors, so this is how this is looking. Here's another look at my finished card, and I hope I've inspired you to use your dies in an unexpected way. Thanks for watching.